Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. We have a great show for you today. First, we have a video that proves that pure evil exists. We have an update on the shooting of the Air Force Airman down in Florida. That coward Adam Montgomery gets his sentence. We have an update in the Karen Reed trial. Judge Merchan rules in favor of the former president on one issue, and I think for the first time. This police officer had a badge and he spit on it. We have a suspect for the man that killed the attorney down in Houston at a McDonald's. And when I say you need to be aware of your surroundings, ladies and gentlemen, this is what I mean. And then finally, our dumb criminal of the day. Let's talk about it.
All right, lawyer.
Good day, everyone. Thanks for joining us. You know the drill. Subscribe if you haven't, like if you do. Leave me a comment below and hit that little bell for notifications, and it really helps that little algorithm thing. I think the theme of today's show would probably be aware of your surroundings. But before we get to the docket, a couple of things. You can get gavel-to-gavel coverage of the Karen Reed trial taking place in Massachusetts, as well as the Chad Daybell trial. Guess what? It is day 21 in the Chad Daybell trial, and the prosecution is still going. Lori Vallow's trial went 21 days. So a little more information this time around is definitely taking a little bit longer. And I actually think Mr. Pryor's doing a better job than Lori Vallow's attorneys did. I know I've said that before, but I'll say it again. I still think the result that we all think is going to take place is going to happen, but I think he's doing a better job representing his client. All right, let's go ahead and open the record for May 10th of 2024. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I have said this before on the show, that I think I've only met true evil just a couple of times. And I mean true evil, which is where you can say that person has no redeeming qualities whatsoever. And yes, they deserve to be locked away in prison for the rest of their life if the death penalty is not an option. We'll take a look at this disturbing video. This man was seen following behind a woman in the Bronx there in New York. And look what he does. He throws his belt over her neck like some sort of lasso, drags her between the car, and then sexually assaults her. Now, this incident occurred about 3 a.m. on May 1st near East 152nd Street and 3rd Avenue in the Melrose neighborhood in New York City. Now, the man, who has not yet been identified, was seen on the video behind this 45-year-old woman who had some sort of brief conversation with the man. He then takes off his belt, tosses it around her like the woman's neck from behind, like he's lassoing an animal. He then pulled back hard, sending her to the ground, and smacks her head on the sidewalk. The woman is then basically blacked out, dragged between the two parked cars, where the man then sexually assaults the woman while she was unconscious. Now, the man could be seen on the surveillance video leaning over her and reportedly looking around several times to make sure there were no witnesses. Now, like I said, no arrests have been made yet, and the man's face was covered up, as the video shows, but anyone with information that could help with this is asked to contact the New York Police Department. The victim is said to be recovering from the assault. I will bet you the largest steak dinner in Denver that when this guy is found, he will have a lengthy criminal history and possibly committed a crime recently and was released on bond. I guess we'll wait and see who's going to buy me the biggest steak dinner, right? Because I think I'm right. Anyway, if I'm wrong, let me know. I doubt he was a choir boy, and this is the first time he's ever been in trouble. Next, we have an update on the airman that was shot by the police the other day in Florida. All right, so now the body cam footage shows just the moments leading up to the United States Air Force Senior Airman Roger Fortson, who was only 23, that got killed last Friday. Now, a neighbor describes a disturbance to the officers as she leads the officer through the apartment complex. She tells the officer that she believed that a fight had maybe gotten out of hand in one of the apartments, and she said that she heard somebody getting slapped. When asked what room the alleged fight took place, the woman responded 1401. Now, the officer then confirmed with the woman that she was going to the 4th floor before riding up the elevator to Fortson's off-base residence at this apartment complex there in Okaloosa County, Florida. Upon arriving at the floor, the officer knocked once and then again saying sheriff's office, opened the door twice. As the door opened, the sheriff's ordered step back and do not move. The officer then fired 6 rapid shots that sent the 23-year-old stumbling to the ground. Now, the woman or a friend that Mr. Fortson was FaceTiming at the time claimed that Fortson heard a knock at the door and asked who was there. And according to that witness, when he did not receive a response but heard another very aggressive knock, Fortson peered through the peephole but did not see anyone and grew concerned. Out of concern, Mr. Fortson retrieved a firearm, which he was legally permitted to have. And then when he returned to his living room, the police pushed through the door and shot him 6 times. Now, the deputy involved in the incident has been placed on administrative leave, which is rather normal in a situation where there's an officer involved shooting. Now, Airman Fortsman, Senior Airman Fortsman, was stationed at the Special Operations Wing at the Hurlburt Field there in Florida and has been on active duty since November of 2019. Now, there was some information, and we reported this, and if we get it wrong, we're going to update it. We're going to fix it. But there was some information that somehow the police officers went to the wrong location. Nope, not the case at all. And then, as you can see very quickly from the video, the door opens, the officer says stop, and shots are fired. You let me know if you thought Mr. Fortson did something wrong. I didn't see him point the weapon at anybody, but officers had to react there very quickly. I don't think it was a racial thing. I think maybe the officer, maybe he was quick, maybe he did everything appropriately. We're going to have to wait and see what comes of it. Either way, I'm sure the city will wind up paying Mr. Fortson's family some money, but we'll wait and see. Next, yes, that horrible human being, Adam Montgomery. I've said it numerous times. He has been convicted by a jury of killing his daughter and not helping them locate her remains. He is a horrible human being. He should have been forced to sit at his trial, but he was not. But guess what? He got 45 years to life in prison for the murder of his 5-year-old daughter. Now, Mr. Montgomery was facing life in prison after being convicted of the 2019 murder in February in New Hampshire. He punched Harmony, his daughter, to death for soiling herself, and her body was never found. Now, prosecutors gave the killer apparently an opportunity to lead them to the remains in exchange for the state's recommendation for a lesser sentence, but Mr. Montgomery refused. So therefore, prosecutors has asked that Mr. Montgomery be sentenced to the 56 years to life. He's currently serving a minimum sentence of 32 and a half years in prison on an unrelated gun charge, and he was also convicted of witness tampering, falsifying physical evidence, and abuse of a corpse. Now, the judge ordered that Mr. Montgomery attend the sentencing hearing after he refused to attend the trial. Now, these are horrific cases, ladies and gentlemen. I had a case involving a dead baby at one point. I represented mom. Somebody else represented dad. At some point, they wanted to know where the missing child was. They believed dad was the responsible one, and basically in exchange for taking the death penalty off the table, they said, take us to where the child was. Now, it turned out that boyfriend and mom had put the child in a duffel bag, carried her across town on the bus, even stopped at a McDonald's for lunch, and then buried her body in the woods not far from the Denver metropolitan area. I know some people don't like the death penalty, but I'm telling you, as a tool for the prosecutors, it is a huge bargaining chip. Whether you approve of it or not, I'm not saying it should be something that should be not used very often for the worst of the worst, but it is in fact a bargaining chip. A lot of people also think that if you harm a child like that, you deserve the worst punishment you could possibly get. Mr. Montgomery hopefully will die in prison for killing his 5-year-old child. All right, next on the docket, an update on the Karen Reed case. Footage from bars showing the accused killer the night that she allegedly killed her cop boyfriend were shown to the jurors yesterday. Now, Miss Reed, if you don't know, is charged with drunkenly and intentionally mowing down her partner, John O'Keefe, during a snowstorm back in January of 2022. Now, the police officer who had been on the force for some 16 years was found dead around 6 a.m. that day, close to a house where Reed had dropped him off for an after party about 12:45 in the morning. Now, Reed's attorneys claim that she was framed by the police as part of a vast conspiracy, saying that O'Keefe was beaten up by people at the party and then ultimately thrown outside. Well, video of the accused killer on the night in question shows her embracing Mr. O'Keefe, the dead boyfriend, and at another bar that was right before ordering drinks. And then she was hugging and kissing him just hours before the alleged mowing down of Mr. O'Keefe. Anyway, prosecutors have argued that Miss Reed and O'Keefe's relationship had been on the rocks amid allegations of cheating, and there was a lot of tension over 2 children that O'Keefe was the caretaker for because his niece and nephew had been orphaned, so he was taking responsibility for the kids. Mr. O'Keefe's friend testified in court that at the first bar, he said the couple seemed content. The group said that they went home around 10 p.m., and then Miss Reed and Mr. O'Keefe went to a different bar. At the second bar, that's where the couple met up with friends, Brian Albert, Brian Higgins, and Jennifer McCabe, who would go on to attend the after party at the house where ultimately Mr. O'Keefe was found outside. Now, a worker at one of the bars, Waterfall Bar and Grill, said he didn't notice any tensions between O'Keefe and Reed, and they seemed affectionate to the point that his wife actually asked him how come he wasn't like that with her. Anyway, the bartender at the last establishment they visited also testified that no one seemed particularly drunk either. Now, a key part of the prosecution's case in the Reed matter is essentially that they're saying that Reed admitted to the crime by yelling, "I hit him," over and over, along with, "This is my fault, I did this." Prosecutors also allege that Reed said, "I could have hit him. Did I hit him? And what if he's dead? What if a plow hit him? I don't remember anything from last night. We drank so much I don't remember anything." Reed's defense was able to get both police officers to acknowledge they never heard Miss Reed say she hit O'Keefe. Like I said, you can watch this trial, gavel-to-gavel coverage right here on CrimeTalk. Next on the docket, the former president gets one favorable ruling from the judge. Judge Merchan, who is presiding over the people of the great state of New York versus Donald Trump, sided with the defense over an interview that the president did on a Larry King show. And the judge said they're not allowed to introduce that because basically it's not relevant. Now, Trump's attorneys argued that the 1999 interview, ladies and gentlemen, that's right, 1999, Larry King and Donald Trump should not be admitted as evidence because it's not relevant to the state of mind of the former president back in 2016, 2017, when all these alleged hush money payments were made. Because in that interview, the former president, he was a private citizen at the time, said that he was familiar about campaign finance laws when Larry King asked him about that because, well, he was one of the biggest contributors, so he was well versed in it. Not really relevant at all given the lapse in time period. Anyway, Judge Merchan agreed to not allow the evidence to be introduced because it could be a stretch that he remembers the laws some 17 years earlier. So hats off to the judge for actually ruling that way, because that's the right one. A little scary that the prosecutors actually thought that they would be able to get that into evidence as relevance. A little scary, but hey, This judge has given them everything else, so they probably figured, what the heck, we can do this. Anyway, I think the judge has finally figured out that he's let the prosecutions run loose, and if there is a conviction, there's a pretty strong possibility that the case is going to be reversed. So this is what judges do. When they start figuring out that they erred, they start pulling things back that they probably would have allowed in so that they can say, well, on appeal, they can say, well, although there's some error, it was harmless because the judge didn't allow in these other things. The reality of it is this Judge Mershon, okay, he is the Judge Lance Ito. Remember Judge Ito from the O.J. Simpson trial for 2024. That's how I would describe this particular judge. Next, this cop had a badge and he spit on it, and obviously we'll give him the presumption of innocence. But remember, bad cops need to go to jail, and they're the exception to the rule. They really are. We love cops. Anyway, a federal grand jury in Memphis, Tennessee returned an 8-count indictment charging former Memphis police officer Patrick J. Ferguson with federal civil rights, kidnapping, and weapon offenses in connection with the fatal shooting of a victim simply identified as R.H. Now, the indictment also charges Ferguson and a civilian by the name of Joshua M. Rogers with federal offenses for conspiring to cover up the alleged fatal shooting and destroying evidence of the crime. Now, the indictment further charges Rogers with accessory after the fact for helping Mr. Ferguson cover up his crimes. The indictment alleges that on or about January 5th, 2021, Mr. Ferguson, while on duty as a Memphis Police Department officer, kidnapped and shot R.H. in the head, resulting in R.H.'s death. Ferguson then allegedly conspired with Rogers to cover up the fatal shooting by disposing of R.H.'s body in the Wolf River in Memphis. The indictment further alleges that Rogers disposed of the car used to transport R.H.'s body by selling the car at a scrap metal dealership. Now, Mr. Ferguson is already facing state charges of murder, kidnapping, tampering with evidence, abuse of corpse, official misconduct, and official oppression for the January 2021 incident. The prosecutors allege that on the 21st, Ferguson went to the home of Mr. Robert Lee Howard Jr. and abducted him at gunpoint. Ferguson then allegedly took Howard to the back of his patrol car where he shot him in the head, killing him. Now, the former cop then allegedly conspired with his friend, Joshua Rogers, to get rid of Howard's body, and they allegedly dumped Howard into the Wolf River. Now, Howard's girlfriend reported him missing the following day, and Howard's body was found on January 10th. Police arrested Ferguson and Rogers a few days later, and a state grand jury indicted him back in May of 2021. The investigators found that Ferguson made searches on his phone about how to clean up a crime scene and destroy evidence. Bad fact. He also bought cinder blocks, chains, and padlocks that were used in the disposal of the body. Cops still don't have a motive for the killing, and Ferguson is awaiting state charges. Now, remember, ladies and gentlemen, an indictment is merely an allegation, and all defendants are presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law. Next, we have an update on the attorney killing in Houston for trying to have everybody calm down in a McDonald's. Well, they have a suspect. Anthony Landry faces murder charges following the shooting at a fast food restaurant there in Houston, Texas, which resulted in the death of Jeffrey Limmer. He is an attorney, and he stepped in when the customer started shouting at McDonald's employees at this McDonald's in Houston. Mr. Limmer tried to calm it down, and then as they argued outside the store, the angry man went to his car, pulled out a gun, and shot the lawyer twice. The shooter then got in his car, fled, and the police were ultimately called to the scene, and they found Mr. Limmer unresponsive on multiple gunshot wounds, and he was declared deceased at the scene. Now, Mr. Landry reportedly has a lengthy rap sheet and was on a $10,000 bond for a felony aggravated assault at the time of the shooting. His next court date is today, May 10th, for an advisement. You starting to notice a pattern, ladies and gentlemen? You're starting to notice a pattern. People commit violent crime, have a lengthy history. And are out on bond. This is why you need to be aware of your surroundings at all times, ladies and gentlemen. Take a look at this video. 2 men robbed a mail carrier in broad daylight, put a gun to her head, and then ran down the street. Now, this took place about 4:30 in the afternoon in Dublin, California. Like I said, the postal worker doing her job. These 2 guys walk up. One guy points a gun at her head. They snatch the mail out of her hand before they run away, and they grabbed her keys to the mailboxes and her phone. The Postal Inspection Service is offering a $150,000 reward for information that leads to the arrest of the 2 robbers. And these 2 robbers probably should be dumb criminal, because guess what? When you rob a mail carrier, it's a federal offense. None of that paltry state stuff where you're going to be out in 30% of your time. No, you're doing Fed time, baby. You're going to do 85%. Now, it wouldn't surprise me that we see these 2 characters as a future dumb criminal, because they stole the keys to the mailboxes that the mail carrier had to in her possession that were taken. I'm sure these idiots will come back and try and use those keys to gain access to those mailboxes. Crazy, ladies and gentlemen. You have to be aware of what is taking place around you. Be so aware. I'm telling you, take it from a guy who's come in contact with lots of bad people over the years. Evil exists. You need to protect yourself. Please go to CrimeTalkSearch.com, sign up for a background subscription service. You'll be happy you did. If there's anyone out there you were ever curious about what was in their background, now is the time to do it. If you're going to get involved with somebody, now is the time to do it. When you go to CrimeTalkSearch.com, you put in the name, literally millions of public records are searched, and a report is generated. And it's going to give you a report. If they have multiple social media accounts, you're going to find it. If they have multiple phone numbers, multiple email addresses, it's going to be found. And more importantly, you're going to get information regarding criminal history. Hopefully the person you're searching has none whatsoever. But if it's there, it's going to be found. You're going to get everything you'd want to know, whether you're going into business or whether you're going into a personal relationship. You're going to be able to find out the information you want to know. So go to CrimeTalkSearch.com, sign up today. You'll be happy you did. Finally today, our dumb criminal of the day. So, Florida police have charged a Key West man with 3 counts of attempted murder after he stole, wait for it, a tractor, a front loader type tractor from a golf course where he worked, and he drove it to the campus of the College of the Florida Keys with the intent of possibly killing 2 people. Ethan Laney faces 4 other felony charges related to his little bulldozer rampage that took place on the campus, and many more counts are pending. Now, Laney stole the tractor from the Key West Golf Club where he was a groundskeeper at about 6 p.m. on Saturday, drove it to the college campus. He then drove the tractor through the lobby of a dormitory using the bucket attachment to destroy the overhead plumbing in the building. And outside the dorm in the parking lot, he rammed a truck, overturning the truck, and then turned towards another vehicle occupied by a man and his 4-year-old daughter. Laney then drove towards the vehicle, raised the bucket, smashed it into the car, and then backed away momentarily. Fortunately, the man escaped from the car with his daughter. Needless to say, the police were called. They arrived. They then noticed that Mr. Laney is taking aim at the police officers by ramming the police car. He used the bucket on the dumpster to crack windshields on the car. And once again, no motive. And why is Mr. Laney the dumb criminal of the day? Well, stealing a car that doesn't go that fast, I guess a tractor. But my God, man, if you're going to do something stupid like that, Mr. Laney, at least have a motive for the rampage. Like, hey, we're going to stick it to the man, or I need time off from the tough job at the golf course as a groundskeeper. Have a reason, not just because. Yeah, don't do that. Mr. Laney, you are a dumb criminal of the day. All right, thank you all for watching, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you had a wonderful week. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you Monday. Thanks for watching.